Episode 9, The 72-Hour War. The first broadcasts go live at 0300 Colonial Standard Time. I'm watching from the temple's command center, body held together by medical foam and spite, as every screen in 3 colonies lights up simultaneously. The data bomb Tanaka died protecting, the evidence the Friar kept safe for 20 years, the truth that cost so many lives. It's all there now, undeniable and complete. Presidential assassination, corporate conspiracy, clone programs, black site operations, names, dates, financial transfers, everything needed to bring down the cabal that's been running the colonies from the shadows. For 60 seconds, I allow myself to believe we've won. Then, the counter-propaganda starts. It begins on AstroTech's corporate channels. Marcus Venn himself, CEO and secret architect of President Morrison's murder, appearing live with the kind of calm authority that comes from decades of lying professionally. His face fills a billion screens, concerned and reasonable, the voice of stability in chaos. Citizens of the colonies were aware of the terrorist broadcast that hijacked our communication systems 3 hours ago. What you saw was sophisticated AI-generated propaganda designed to destabilize our governments and sow chaos. We're working with UCF authorities to track down the extremists responsible. I watch him lie with the skill of someone who's made an art form of deception. The evidence is right there, authenticated and verified, but he's not addressing the evidence. He's addressing the feeling, the fear that comes from learning your world isn't what you thought it was. The so-called documents are fabrications. The footage has been digitally altered. The conspiracy they describe is fiction, designed to undermine faith in the institutions that keep us safe. We ask for your patience as we work to restore order and bring these terrorists to justice. Syndustries' CEO follows within minutes, then Fortress Space Tech, then a dozen other executives, all reading from the same script, all projecting the same message. This is fake. This is terrorism. This is chaos manufactured by people who want to destroy civilization. And across 3 colonies, I watch people believe them. Not everyone. The evidence is too solid, too detailed, too thoroughly documented, but enough people. Enough to create doubt. Enough to turn this from a slam dunk exposure into a contested narrative where the truth becomes just another opinion. They're good, Chen says from beside me. He's been watching the feeds too, seeing the same pattern I am. Corporate crisis management at its finest. They knew this day might come. They've had contingency plans waiting for years. Will it work? My voice is rough, throat still damaged from the broadcast center explosion. It's already working. Look at the social feeds. Half the comments are calling the broadcast fake. The other half are arguing about authentication methods and chain of custody. They've turned a revelation into a debate, and debates can be won with enough money and airtime. The Friar is standing at the center of the command center, surrounded by screens showing news feeds, social media reactions, government responses. He's been silent since the counter-propaganda started, just watching, calculating, running scenarios through a mind that spent 20 years planning for this moment. Finally, he speaks. They're afraid. That's good. Fear makes them sloppy. He gestures to the screens. But they're also right. The evidence alone won't be enough. Too many people want to believe the comfortable lie instead of the uncomfortable truth. So we escalate. To what? Deacon asks from his position near the entrance. He's wounded, took rounds during the tower extraction, but still standing through sheer stubborn refusal to fall. We've already played our biggest card. Everything Tanaka collected is public now. What else do we have? The Friar walks to a terminal I haven't seen him use before. Old equipment, pre-war construction, the kind of hardware that predates modern security protocols. He places his hand on it almost reverently. The source, he says quietly. William Xavier's final creation. The reason the cabal wanted him dead. The reason they've been hunting anyone who got close to the truth. I remember fragments from Tanaka's data, the source, a quantum computing network built in secret used by the cabal to manipulate markets and rig elections. But the Friar's tone suggests something more, something worse. The source isn't just a computer, he continues. It's infrastructure. When the corporations built the colonial network, they needed something to coordinate it all. Power distribution, communications, life support, transportation, everything that makes the colonies function. The source was supposed to be distributed, redundant, impossible to compromise. But you compromised it, I say, understanding dawning. Xavier compromised it. 20 years ago, when he was still chief engineer for industries before he stumbled into the conspiracy, he built backdoors into the system. Not for sabotage, for maintenance. Emergency access in case something went catastrophically wrong. The Friar's smile is bitter. The cabal has been using those backdoors to control the colonies for 2 decades. Now we're going to use them to make a different kind of statement. He brings up a new interface, not modern and sleek, ancient and functional, the kind of command system designed by someone who understood that simplicity is more reliable than sophistication. Lines of code scroll past, too fast for me to follow, but the Friar's fingers move with absolute certainty. "What are you doing?" Chen asks, voice tight with something that might be fear. "Prepare a plan B, the option I've kept in reserve for 20 years, hoping I'd never need to use it." The Friar doesn't look away from the screen. The cabal thinks they can weather this, thinks they can spin the narrative, buy enough politicians, intimidate enough journalists, make this another scandal that gets memory hold in 6 months. They're probably right. "So we make them wrong," Deacon says, understanding what's coming, same as I am. "We make them choose." The Friar finishes his preparations, then turns to face us. "In 30 minutes, I'm going to broadcast an ultimatum, not to the public, to the cabal directly. They have 72 hours to surrender themselves for trial. All of them. Every executive, every politician, everyone involved in the conspiracy. If they comply, they face justice. If they refuse..." He gestures to the terminal behind him. The source shuts down. Everything except life support goes dark. No power distribution, no communications, no transportation. 3 colonies plunged into darkness, and it stays dark until the cabal surrenders or civilization collapses. Whichever comes first. The silence in the command center is absolute. What he's describing isn't just leverage, it's apocalypse with a timer. Billions of people held hostage to force the surrender of maybe 3 dozen conspirators. It's terrorism on a scale that makes the assassination of one president look almost quaint. "They'll never surrender," I say. "People like that don't surrender. They'll burn the colonies down before they face justice." "I know. That's why this is Plan B." The Friar's expression is haunted, but we're out of good options. The propaganda is working, the public is already doubting. In a week, this will be just another conspiracy theory, and the cabal will have won without firing another shot. This forces their hand, makes them choose between surrender and collapse. And maybe, just maybe, some of them will choose survival over pride. And if they don't, if none of them surrender, then in 72 hours, the colonies go dark. Society breaks down. Millions die in the chaos that follows. The cabal gets what they wanted, absolute power, but it'll be power over ashes and mass graves. He meets my eyes. But at least everyone will know the truth. At least the next generation, if there is one, will know who to blame for the fall. It's insane. It's monstrous. It's exactly what someone driven by 20 years of rage and loss would plan as a final middle finger to the people who took everything from him. And I can't think of a better option. "There's one more thing," the Friar says. "The ultimatum has 2 parts. 72 hours for the cabal to surrender. But first, a more immediate demand. All military and corporate forces have 30 minutes to withdraw from the Undercity. Pull back to the surface levels, leave the deep sectors alone, stop the hunting and killing. If they comply, we know they're taking the threat seriously. If they don't, you shut down the grid immediately, Chen finishes. Prove you're serious. Show them you'll actually do it. Exactly. 30 minutes to clear the Undercity, 72 hours to surrender. And to make sure they understand this isn't a bluff, I'm going to give them proof. The Friar pulls up new footage. Security camera recordings, timestamped from the last 6 hours. Corporate and UCF forces have been burning through the Undercity since the broadcast, killing anyone who might have helped us. Civilians, refugees, people who had nothing to do with any of this. I've been collecting footage. Every execution, every atrocity, every crime they've committed trying to silence the truth. The footage plays. It's worse than I expected. Systematic murder, professional and efficient, carried out by people wearing UCF military insignia and corporate security colors. Men, women, children, doesn't matter. Anyone in the wrong sector at the wrong time becomes a target. Bodies pile up in corridors while soldiers move on to the next settlement. This goes out with the ultimatum, the Friar says, so everyone can see what they're willing to do to maintain control. So the colonies understand what kind of people we're dealing with. And so those soldiers down here know that when the grid shuts down, they'll be trapped in the dark with everyone they've been killing. Might make them reconsider their career choices. It's brilliant and horrifying in equal measure. Not just threatening the cabal, threatening everyone who enables them. Every soldier following orders. Every executive signing off on operations. Every politician looking the other way. All of them complicit. All of them going to face consequences when the lights go out. How long until the broadcast? I ask. The Friar checks a countdown on his screen. 23 minutes. That gives us time to prepare, because the moment this goes live, the cabal is going to come for us with everything they have. This temple will become ground zero for the most concentrated military assault the Undercity has ever seen. We can't hold against that, Deacon says. Not with our numbers. We've got maybe 40 fighters in the temple, another 100 scattered through the resistance cells. Against corporate security and UCF military, we'll be overrun in hours. I know, which is why we're not just defending the temple. The Friar brings up a schematic of the deep Undercity. Sector 12 has 3 major civilian settlements, a couple thousand people, refugees and families who've been living down here for years. When the military withdrew after the broadcast, they left these settlements intact but vulnerable. The moment they realize we're serious, they'll come back with orders to burn everything. Kill everyone who might shelter us. So we evacuate, Chen says. Bring everyone here. Make this a refugee situation instead of just a military target. The cabal might be willing to assault a resistance temple. They'll hesitate to massacre a civilian shelter on camera. Will they? I ask. They've already been executing civilians. Why would this be different? Because this time, everyone will be watching. The Friar switches to a new interface. When I broadcast the ultimatum, I'm also activating every camera in the Undercity. Security feeds, personal devices, anything with a lens. All of it streaming to public networks. If they assault this temple, if they kill refugees seeking shelter, it'll be broadcast live across 3 colonies. That's different from hidden executions in empty corridors. That's a massacre in prime time. You're betting they won't risk it. I'm betting they'll hesitate, and hesitation buys time. Time for the colonies to process the ultimatum. Time for fractures to appear in the cabal. Time for some of them to realize surrender is preferable to presiding over civilization's collapse. He looks at all of us. It's a terrible plan. Desperate and probably doomed, but it's the only one we have. Deacon moves to the armory, starts pulling weapons. Then we better get ready. If we're bringing civilians here, we need to secure the perimeter, set up proper defenses. Make this temple into a fortress that can hold against whatever they throw at us. How long can we hold? I ask. 72 hours is the goal. But realistically, Beacon checks ammunition supplies, medical equipment, everything we'd need for a siege. 48 if we're lucky, maybe 36. Depends on how badly they want us dead versus how much they care about public perception. Then we make it 72. I force myself to stand, ignoring my body's protests. Chen, coordinate the civilian evacuation. Get everyone you can to the temple. Deacon, fortify our defenses. I'll help the Friar prep the ultimatum broadcast. You should be in medical, Chen says. You're barely functional. The tower fight nearly killed you, and you've had maybe 6 hours to recover. I've got 72 more hours to be dead. Right now, I'm useful. I move to the Friar's terminal, each step a negotiation with damaged systems. What do you need from me? The Friar studies me for a moment, sees what everyone sees, a broken asset held together by a parasitic chip and spite. Then he nods. Help me verify the source access. I need to be absolutely certain the shutdown protocols will work. If I threaten to turn off the lights and nothing happens, we're dead and the cabal wins. We work in silence, running through system diagnostics, confirming backdoor access, testing shutdown sequences on isolated subsystems. Everything checks out. The source is vulnerable exactly where Xavier said it would be. When the Friar gives the command, the colonies will go dark. Life support will remain. The Friar isn't a mass murderer, but everything else shuts down. No power for anything except keeping people breathing. It'll be chaos. Economy crashes. Supply chains break. 3 billion people suddenly living in a pre-industrial age with post-industrial expectations. Riots, looting, violence on a scale I can barely imagine, and all of it because we're forcing the cabal to choose between surrender and apocalypse. You understand what this means? I ask quietly. If they don't surrender, if they call the bluff, we'll have killed more people than the cabal ever did. Millions dead in the chaos. Blood on our hands forever. I know. The Friar's voice is steady. I've been living with that knowledge for 20 years. Every day, asking myself if I could really do it, if I could be responsible for that much death. But then I remember Mars, remember watching my family die, remember Dante taking plasma fire to keep me alive, remember Tanaka executed on a public stage while the colonies did nothing. He meets my eyes. The cabal has been killing us slowly for decades, grinding people down, treating lives like resources to be exploited. Maybe it's time they faced a choice, die together in the dark or live together in the light. But no more shadows, no more conspiracy, no more invisible masters. The countdown hits 0. The Friar takes a breath, then activates the broadcast. Every screen in 3 colonies lights up again, but this time there's no data dump, no evidence package, just the Friar's face, old and hard and absolutely certain. My name is William Xavier. 20 years ago, I was chief engineer for Sindustry's Mars facility. I stumbled into a conspiracy. I survived an assassination attempt. I spent 2 decades in the shadows, keeping the truth alive, while the cabal that runs your governments tried to erase everyone who knew. He pauses. Lets that sink in. 3 hours ago, we released evidence of presidential assassination, corporate conspiracy, crimes that should bring down everyone involved. But I've been watching the corporate response, watching them spin, lie, manufacture doubt, and I realized the evidence alone won't be enough. So here's what happens next. The screen splits. On one side, the Friar, on the other, footage of UCF soldiers executing civilians in the Undercity. It's brutal, unambiguous, impossible to explain away as AI generation or terrorist propaganda, real people dying in real time while soldiers follow orders. This is what your government has been doing in the darkness, killing refugees, murdering families, executing anyone who might threaten the cabal's control. This footage is from the last 6 hours. There's more, hours of it, all documented, all real. The footage continues. Settlement after settlement burned, bodies left where they fell. Professional extermination carried out with military precision. The cabal thinks they can weather this scandal, thinks they can buy enough airtime, control enough narrative, make this disappear like they've made so many inconvenient truths disappear. So I'm making them an offer they can't refuse. The Friar's expression hardens. Every member of the cabal has 72 hours to surrender themselves for trial. All of you. Marcus Venn of AstroTech, Corana of Industries, President Castellan, every executive, every politician, everyone involved in the conspiracy to assassinate President Morrison and control our governments from the shadows. You have 72 hours to turn yourselves in to Neutral UCF Military Command. Face trial, face justice. He leans closer to the camera. If you comply, you face the law. If you refuse, you face something worse. In 72 hours, the source quantum network shuts down. Everything except life support goes dark. No power distribution, no communications, no transportation. 3 colonies plunged into darkness, and it stays dark until you surrender or civilization collapses. Your choice. The screen changes. Shows schematics of the source, technical data proving he has the access he claims, not something that can be faked or bluffed. Real control over real systems. But first, a demonstration. To prove this isn't a threat. It's a promise. The Friar's voice goes cold. All military and corporate forces currently operating in the Undercity have 30 minutes to withdraw to surface levels. Pull back. Leave the civilians alone. Stop the executions. If you comply, I know you're taking this seriously. If you don't, the grid shuts down immediately. All of it. And you'll be trapped in the dark with everyone you've been killing. 30 minutes, starting now. The countdown appears on every screen. 29 minutes, 59 seconds, ticking down. To the civilians of the colonies, the Friar continues. I'm sorry it's come to this. Sorry you're caught between a conspiracy that wants to control you and resistance that's willing to burn everything down to stop them. But you deserve the truth. Deserve to choose your own fate. In 72 hours, you'll know if the cabal values their power more than your lives. I hope they choose surrender, but I'm not optimistic. The broadcast ends. The screens return to normal programming, but the countdown remains, visible in every feed, every display, every device. 29 minutes until the demonstration. 72 hours until the ultimatum expires. The war has begun. Chen's voice comes through on comms, already in motion. Civilian evacuation is underway. First groups are arriving at the temple perimeter now. We've got maybe 3,000 people coming, probably more as word spreads. Where do you want them? Inner chambers, the Friar responds, as far from the outer defenses as possible. If this turns into a siege, they need to be protected from crossfire. Understood. ETA for full evacuation is, Chen pauses, shit. Military forces aren't withdrawing, they're regrouping. Looks like they're preparing for assault. I checked the tactical feeds. He's right. Instead of pulling back to the surface, the corporate and UCF forces in the Undercity are consolidating positions, setting up staging areas, bringing heavy equipment. They're not retreating, they're preparing to storm the temple. They don't believe you'll do it, I tell the Friar. They think it's a bluff. Then they're going to learn otherwise. The Friar's hands move across the terminal. How long until the 30-minute deadline? 19 minutes. In the military forces? Still in position. No withdrawal. They're digging in. The Friar nods slowly. Then we proceed. When the countdown hits 0, if they haven't withdrawn, the grid shuts down. All of it. No warnings, no grace period. They'll have 60 seconds of power failure to understand this is real, then I'll bring essential systems back online. But they'll know I can do what I threatened. That'll kill people, Chen says over comms. Hospitals, life support systems, anyone dependent on continuous power. Even 60 seconds of failure will cause casualties. I know. The Friar's voice is steady, but less than would die in a full shutdown, and far less than have already died to maintain the cabal's power. Sometimes the only way to stop a greater evil is to commit a lesser one. I learned that on Mars. The countdown continues. 18 minutes. 17. I watch the tactical feeds, hoping to see military forces withdrawing, hoping they'll take the threat seriously. They don't move. Deacon's voice comes through. Perimeter is as secure as we can make it on short notice. Automated defenses are online, fighting positions established, civilians are being directed to inner chambers. We've got about 15 minutes before the first wave hits, assuming they assault immediately after the deadline. They will, I say. They're not going to give us time to reinforce. The moment the deadline expires, they'll come at us with everything. Then we better make them pay for every meter. Deacon signs off to coordinate defensive positions. I'm watching the countdown when something changes on the feeds. Not military withdrawal, something else. The corporate propaganda channels are going into overdrive. Emergency broadcasts. Marcus Van's face on every screen, alongside other executives, all speaking simultaneously. The terrorist broadcast you just witnessed is exactly what we warned about. Sophisticated manipulation designed to create panic. The so-called evidence is fabricated. The threats are empty. We have the finest technical experts in 3 colonies confirming that the source quantum network cannot be compromised the way the terrorists claim. They're lying. I can see it in Ven's eyes, the slight hesitation before he delivers the words. He knows the threat is real, but he's betting most people won't call the bluff, betting on public faith in corporate competence to override the evidence of their own eyes. Colonial authorities are moving to neutralize the terrorist cell responsible for these broadcasts. We expect resolution within hours. In the meantime, remain calm, remain in your homes, trust that your government and the corporations that protect you have everything under control. The countdown hits 10 minutes. Chen's voice strained. Zyl, we've got a problem. The civilians we're evacuating, some of them are seeing the corporate broadcasts. They're scared. Some are turning back, don't want to be in the temple when the military assault happens. We're losing people. Let them go, the Friar says. We can't force them to trust us. They have to choose. And if they choose wrong? If they believe Ven's lies and stay in the settlements when the shooting starts? Then they'll learn the truth the hard way. But it's their choice. We're not the cabal. We don't take away people's agency, even when it would be convenient. The countdown hits 5 minutes. I check weapons, load magazines, run diagnostic on the black chip to confirm it's still compensating for my damaged state. Everything reads marginally functional, which is the best I can hope for. My body is held together by spite and stimulants, but I've fought on worse. I'll do it again. 3 minutes. The military forces are in final staging positions. I can see their deployments on the tactical feeds. At least 300 troops, corporate security, and UCF military working together. Heavy weapons, armored vehicles. This isn't a raid. This is a full-scale assault on a position they intend to level. 2 minutes. Deacon's voice. All positions ready. Civilians are secured. We're as prepared as we're going to be. Give the word and we engage. Hold fire until they commit, the Friar orders. Let them think they have the initiative. Make them come to us where our defenses are strongest. 1 minute. The countdown is on every screen in the temple now. Resistance fighters watching. Civilians huddled in the inner chambers. Everyone waiting to see if the Friar will really do it. If he'll really shut down the grid to prove his threat is real. 30 seconds. I'm standing beside him at the command terminal, watching his hands hover over the shutdown sequence. He's not hesitating, just waiting for the precise moment. 20 seconds. The military forces haven't moved. Still in position, still preparing to assault. They don't believe. Don't think one old man in a forgotten temple can really turn off the lights across 3 colonies. 10 seconds. The Friar's fingers settle on the keys. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. He triggers the shutdown. For 3 seconds, nothing happens. Then every screen in the temple goes dark. The power fails. Emergency lighting kicks in. Dim red illumination that turns everything the color of blood. On the tactical feeds that are still operational, running on backup power, I watch it spread. Like a wave of darkness rolling across 3 colonies. City lights blinking out. Screens going dead. Transportation systems failing. 3 billion people plunged into unexpected night. The Friar counts silently. 30 seconds, 40, 50. At 60 seconds, he brings the essential systems back online. Power returns, but limited. Enough for life support, hospitals, critical infrastructure. Everything else stays dark. The message is clear. I can do what I threatened. This is real. Take me seriously. On the news feeds that come back online, there's chaos. Reporters trying to explain what just happened. Technical experts admitting they don't know how it was done. Corporate spokespeople suddenly much less confident in their assurances that the threat was empty. And in the Undercity, the military forces are moving, not withdrawing, advancing. The darkness proved the Friar wasn't bluffing, but instead of retreating, they're accelerating the assault. They've been given orders to take the temple regardless of cost, stop the shutdown at the source, kill everyone responsible, and worry about public perception later. Here they come, Deacon reports. First wave breaching the perimeter. Heavy weapons, lots of them. This is going to get loud. The first explosions shake the temple. Not close yet, but getting closer. The assault has begun. The Friar activates the camera network. Every lens in the Undercity, every device with recording capability, all of it streaming to public networks. The colonies are going to watch this siege live, see every round fired, every casualty inflicted, no more hidden executions, no more convenient darkness. All positions, hold fire until they're committed, the Friar orders. Let them get close. Make every round count. We're not trying to win this fight. We're trying to survive it for 72 hours while the colonies decide if they want to keep living in the dark. I take position at a defensive point overlooking the main approach. Chen is somewhere to my left, Deacon to my right. Around us, resistance fighters who've been preparing for this moment, waiting for the day they'd get to fight back instead of just hiding. The first military units appear in my sights, professional, coordinated, advancing with the confidence of overwhelming force. They think this is just another raid, another resistance cell to be crushed, another problem to be solved with enough firepower. They're wrong. The black chip pulses in my skull, feeding me targeting solutions, compensating for my damaged state. I steady my breathing, finger on the trigger, waiting for the right moment. The moment when they're too committed to retreat. When they've crossed the line into the kill zone our defenses have created. When every step forward costs them blood. That moment arrives. Open fire, the Friar orders. The temple erupts in controlled violence. Automated defenses activate, cutting down the first wave. Resistance fighters engage from prepared positions, making the military pay for every meter. It's not chaos. It's professional defense by people who've been training for this, who know the terrain, who understand this is the fight that matters. The military forces respond with overwhelming firepower. Heavy weapons turn the temple's outer structures into rubble. They're not being careful, not trying to limit collateral damage. They're bringing everything they have, and the message is clear: surrender or die. We choose die. The first assault breaks against our defenses. The military forces pull back, regroup, reassess. They expected easy victory. They're learning otherwise, that they're not retreating, just adapting, bringing up heavier weapons, preparing for a longer siege. Casualties? The Friar asks. Deacon's response: 3 wounded, none critical. Outer defenses are holding, but we're burning through ammunition faster than I'd like. If they keep this intensity, we've got maybe 12 hours before we're down to harsh language and thrown rocks. Then we make those 12 hours count. The Friar switches to a public broadcast channel. Not the whole colonies this time, just New Tokyo. Just the people close enough to care. Citizens of New Tokyo. What you're watching is your government and corporations assaulting a civilian refuge. The people in this temple are refugees, families, children. We're defending them against forces that have been executing civilians in the Undercity for the last 24 hours. This is what the cabal does when you threaten their power. Remember this when they tell you they're protecting you. It's propaganda, but it's also true. The temple is full of civilians now. People who fled the settlements when the military started burning them. People who had nowhere else to go. If the assault continues, those people will die. The cabal has to choose: keep attacking and risk the public perception of massacring civilians, or pull back and give the resistance time to fortify, time for the ultimatum to spread. They choose keep attacking. The second wave hits harder. They've brought up siege equipment, the kind designed for urban warfare, shaped charges that blow through our reinforced walls, heavy plasma weapons that turn cover into slag. This isn't surgical anymore. This is demolition. They're going to bring down the temple with us inside. I'm firing controlled bursts, making ammunition last, taking down targets when the opportunity is present. But for every soldier I drop, 3 more appear. They're feeding in reinforcements, rotating fresh units, maintaining pressure. Professional siege tactics. They can do this for days if they want. We can't. Zyl, they're flanking on the east corridor, Chen's voice through comms. Need support or they'll breach the inner defenses. I move, ignoring my body's protests, getting to the east position. 3 soldiers advancing, using the rubble for cover, working their way toward the civilians huddled in the inner chambers. I engage from an elevated position, putting rounds into gaps in their armor, forcing them back. The black chip is screaming warnings about ammunition expenditure, about physical stress, about 100 small failures cascading toward critical shutdown. I ignore it all. Surviving the next 5 minutes is more important than surviving the next 5 hours. The soldiers retreat, but not far. They're probing, testing our defenses, finding the weak points. When they assault again, they'll hit those points with concentrated force. Textbook siege warfare. I fall back to the command center. The Friar is coordinating defense, moving people, shoring up positions, doing everything one old engineer can do to hold off an army. He looks exhausted, desperate, but determined. How long has it been? I ask. Since the deadline? 4 hours. Since the assault started? 3 hours 40 minutes. He checks tactical displays. We're holding, but barely. They're not trying to preserve the temple anymore. They're just trying to bury us in the rubble. Then we need to give them a reason to stop. Something that makes continued assault more expensive than withdrawal. Like what? To pull up the public feeds. The assault is being broadcast live, just like the Friar planned. But the narrative is mixed. Some channels showing it as legitimate security operation, others showing it as government massacre of civilians. The public is split, arguing, choosing sides based on priors rather than evidence. We need to make it undeniable, I say. Right now, it's spin versus spin. We need something so clear, so unambiguous, that even the corporate channels can't explain it away. Such as, I think about the original broadcast, the evidence that got buried under counter-propaganda, the truth that became just another opinion. We need something that can't be dismissed, can't be explained away, can't be turned into a debate. We need a confession. The cabal thinks they can weather this, thinks they can control the narrative, wait out the siege, kill everyone involved, and move on. They're probably right, but what if one of them breaks? What if someone decides surrender is preferable to being hunted forever? The Friar considers, you want to offer them a deal. Immunity in exchange for testimony against the others. Not immunity. Lighter sentence. Face trial, cooperate with prosecution, get life in prison instead of execution. It's still justice, but with an escape hatch. Make it attractive enough that someone takes it. The cabal will see it as divide and conquer. They'll close ranks, refuse to engage. Maybe. Or maybe one of them is pragmatic enough to save their own skin. Maybe one of them realizes the 72 hours is a real deadline and they'd rather be in prison than dead in the dark. I check the countdown, 68 hours remaining. Worth a try. Worst case, they refuse and we're no worse off than we are now. The Friar nods slowly. Draft the offer. I'll broadcast it during the next lull in fighting. If anyone's gonna break, they'll do it when the pressure is highest. An explosion rocks the temple. Closer this time. They're bringing down the outer structures, collapsing passages, forcing us deeper into the defensible core. It's working. We're running out of space, out of ammunition, out of time. But we're not out of hope yet. Not quite. I draft the offer while Chen coordinates ammunition distribution and Deacon manages the defensive positions. Keep it simple, clear. Anyone in the cabal who surrenders in the next 24 hours gets to face trial instead of summary execution. Cooperation gets consideration for lighter sentencing. It's more mercy than they showed President Morrison or any of the resistance fighters they've killed. The assault pauses. Temporary. They're bringing up fresh units, restocking ammunition, preparing for another push. The Friar uses the lull to broadcast the offer. To members of the cabal, you've seen the evidence. You know the truth will come out. You know the 72-hour deadline is real. I'm offering you a choice. Surrender now, cooperate with prosecution, and face trial instead of summary execution. The first one to turn themselves in gets the most favorable consideration. After that, the deal gets worse for each additional person. Timer starts now, 24 hours before this offer expires. He's creating a prisoner's dilemma. Everyone in the cabal knows someone else might take the deal. First one to defect gets the best terms, last one to hold out faces the worst consequences. It's game theory for psychological warfare. Will it work? Probably not. These are people who spent decades building power, who've killed to maintain control, who think they're untouchable. One offer of leniency probably won't break that confidence. But it might create doubt, suspicion, fear that someone else will break first. And fear makes people sloppy. The assault resumes, heavier this time. They're done testing defenses. Now they're just applying force until something breaks. Us or the temple. Whatever comes first. I'm back on the firing line, burning through ammunition that I can't replace, taking down targets until the barrel of my weapon is hot enough to cook flesh. Around me, resistance fighters are doing the same. Some fall. Medical teams drag them back to the inner chambers where the Friar has set up a triage center. Others take their positions. Keep fighting because stopping means dying, and dying means the cabal wins. The black chip is overclocking my failing augments, pushing everything past safe limits. I'm accumulating damage faster than even the chip can compensate. My vision is tunneling. My hands are shaking. Every breath costs. But I'm still standing, still fighting, still buying time for the ultimatum to work. Zyl, you need to pull back, Chen's voice. He's beside me suddenly, weapon up, providing cover. You're gonna burn out completely if you keep this pace. Good thing the siege will be over before that happens. That's not. He stops, looks at me, sees what I've become. Not the elite operator he worked with years ago. Not even the broken asset who woke from cryo 3 weeks ago. Something else. Something the chip and the damage and the desperation have created. You're not planning to survive this, are you? I'm planning to make it 72 hours. After that, it doesn't matter. It matters to the people who need you. The Friar needs you. Deacon needs you. The Resistance needs you. The Resistance needs the truth to get out. Needs the cabal to be held accountable. Needs the 72 hours to run out so the colonies have to make a choice. Whether I survive to see it doesn't change any of that. It changes whether this means anything beyond just revenge, whether we're building something or just burning everything down. I don't have an answer for that. Don't know if we're building or burning. Don't know if the 72 hours will bring justice or apocalypse. Don't even know if I'm still Zyl Koban or just a collection of angry ghosts wearing his face. But I know I can hold this position for another few minutes, and then another few after that. And if I chain enough few minutes together, maybe it adds up to 72 hours. Maybe that's enough. The assault continues through the night. The temple is burning in places, collapsed in others, but the core still stands. The civilians are still protected, the defenders are still fighting, and the countdown is still ticking towards 0. 60 hours remaining. Somewhere in the corporate towers above, the cabal is watching. Seeing their forces stalled by a resistance that should have been crushed hours ago. Seeing the public feeds showing civilians sheltering in the temple, showing refugees being defended instead of executed. Seeing the narrative shift from terrorism to oppression, from security operation to massacre. They have to choose, surrender or escalate, negotiate or destroy, accept accountability or maintain power at any cost. I'm betting they choose power. People like that always do. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the offer of leniency will crack someone's resolve. Maybe one executive will decide life in prison is preferable to death in the dark. Maybe hope isn't completely dead yet. The assault intensifies as dawn breaks over New Tokyo. They're bringing in everything now. Artillery, air support, weapons designed for colonial defense being turned against civilians sheltering in a temple 3 levels below the surface. The cabal has stopped pretending this is surgical. Now it's just extermination. The temple shakes with each impact. Walls crack, ceilings collapse. We're being buried alive, slowly, methodically, professionally. This is what happens when you threaten the most powerful people in 3 colonies. They erase you and everyone near you and dare the public to object. Casualties mounting, Deacon reports. His voice is steady, but I can hear the strain. Lost 6 in the last hour. Ammunition is critical. Medical supplies are almost gone. We're not going to make 72 hours at this rate. 48 if we're lucky. Then we make our luck, the Friar says. He's been monitoring something on his terminal, tracking data that he hasn't shared. I have a backup plan. Something I hoped I wouldn't need to use, but we're out of good options. What kind of backup plan? The kind that makes this worse before it gets better. The kind that forces everyone to choose right now instead of waiting for the deadline. He pulls up a new interface. I've been tracking the cabal's communications. They're coordinating the assault from a secure command center in the AstroTech tower. Executive level stuff, hardened against intrusion, impossible to hack under normal circumstances. But Xavier built back doors into everything, including the corporate towers. I can access their systems. Can't control them, but I can see them, including the command center where they're coordinating this siege. I understand where he's going. You want to broadcast their communications, show the colonies that the cabal is directly ordering this massacre. More than that, I want to show them how the cabal talks about the people they rule, the contempt, the casual cruelty, the complete lack of regard for human life. Let everyone hear what these executives say when they think no one's listening. Make it impossible to maintain the fiction that they're protectors instead of predators. It's risky. The cabal could be careful, could have sanitized their communications, knowing they might be compromised. But people get sloppy when they think they're safe, say things in private they'd never say in public. And 20 years of rage suggests the Friar has been waiting for exactly this opportunity. Do it, I tell him. We've got nothing to lose that we're not losing already. The Friar activates the intercept. Within seconds, audio from the command center is streaming to public networks. Corporate executives coordinating the assault, giving orders, discussing tactics. And they're not careful. Just level the entire sector. I don't care about casualties. We need the source shut down and the engineer dead. Everything else is secondary. What about the civilians? The footage is already making us look bad. The footage is making us look weak. Hit them harder. Make it clear what happens when people harbor terrorists. Fear is more useful than goodwill. UCF Command is objecting to the escalation. Something about rules of engagement. Tell UCF Command to stand down or we'll withdraw security support from their facilities. They'll comply. They always do. It goes on. Executives discussing civilian deaths like logistics problems, politicians deferring to corporate authority, military commanders following orders they know are illegal because refusing means losing access to corporate resources. The entire rotten structure of how the colonies actually function laid bare for everyone to hear. The public feeds explode. This isn't spin or propaganda. This is direct evidence of the cabal ordering massacre, discussing civilian casualties like acceptable losses, treating human lives as resources to be expended in defense of their power. The narrative shifts. Corporate channels that were defending the assault go quiet. Journalists who were both sides in the issue suddenly have clarity. Politicians who were supporting the cabal start calling for investigations. The edifice of lies that's been propping up the conspiracy starts to crack. It's not justice yet, but it's a crack, and cracks spread. I'm getting reports, Chen says, monitoring various channels. UCF military units are receiving stand-down orders. Some are complying, pulling back from the assault. Others are refusing, continuing the attack. The command structure is fracturing. Good, the Friar says. Fractures mean choice. Officers deciding whether to follow illegal orders or risk their careers by refusing. That's more than we had an hour ago. The assault is losing coordination. Some units pull back, others maintain pressure. It's becoming chaotic, which is dangerous in a different way. Chaotic means unpredictable. Means desperate people making desperate choices. A massive explosion rocks the temple. Not artillery, something bigger. They've brought up bunker busters, the kind of weapons designed to crack hardened positions. The ceiling above us groans, the ports straining, threatening total collapse. That's the inner chamber, Deacon reports, voice tight, where we have the civilians. Another hit like that and the ceiling comes down on everyone. The Friar's hands are flying across his terminal, making calculations, running scenarios. They're willing to bury everyone rather than risk us surviving. The command intercept didn't make them pull back, it made them desperate. So what do we do? We move the civilians deeper. There are passages below this level, old maintenance tunnels that connect to the undercity network. If we can get everyone out before the temple collapses, they might survive. And us? We stay. Someone has to keep the source online, keep broadcasting, keep the pressure on. If we abandon the terminal, they shut everything down and the ultimatum becomes meaningless. It's a death sentence, but it's also the only choice that makes sense. The civilians didn't sign up for this fight. We did. Getting them out is the minimum we owe them. Start the evacuation, I tell Chen. Get everyone you can into the lower tunnels. Priority to children, then wounded, then everyone else. Move fast and quiet. The moment they realize we're evacuating, they'll hit the escape routes. Chen nods and disappears to coordinate. Deacon stays at his position, holding the line, buying time for the evacuation to proceed. I'm standing next to the Friar, watching the countdown. 52 hours remaining. It feels like forever. Feels like we'll never make it. You know this is insane, I tell him. Betting everything on the colonies making the right choice. On the cabal surrendering rather than letting civilization burn. On desperate hope that people will choose justice over comfort. I know. That's what makes it honest. The Friar doesn't look away from his screens. The cabal has been operating on cynicism, assuming people can be bought, controlled, manipulated, assuming that with enough money and enough lies, you can make truth irrelevant. Maybe they're right. Maybe when the 72 hours expire, nobody surrenders and I have to shut down the grid. Maybe civilization collapses and we're responsible for more deaths than the cabal ever caused. But at least it'll be a choice. At least people will know what they're choosing. Live in truth or die in comfortable lies. Either way, no more shadows. No more invisible masters. Just consequences. Clear and final. Another explosion. Closer. The temple is coming apart around us. Through the structural damage, I can see daylight filtering down from levels above. We're exposed now. Vulnerable. The siege is entering its final phase. Evacuation is nearly complete, Chen reports. 5 more minutes, and everyone's clear. You too, I tell him. Get out while you can. We'll hold here as long as possible. Not a chance. You're stuck with me until the end, whatever that looks like. Same, Deacon adds. Angel died protecting Xavier. I'm not leaving until the job's done. The Friar looks at all of us. Old man surrounded by broken assets and stubborn ghosts, defending a position that's already lost, betting everything on a deadline that probably won't be met. It should feel hopeless. Instead, it feels right. Then we finish this, the Friar says. 52 hours left. Let's make every one of them count. The assault intensifies. They're done being careful. Done worrying about public perception. They're bringing the temple down, and they don't care who's inside when it falls. But we're still broadcasting. Still holding the source online. Still keeping the ultimatum live across 3 colonies. 52 hours and counting. The war has just begun. And somewhere in the corporate towers above, the cabal is watching their empire crack, 1 second at a time. End of Episode 9.